There's no showing of pay stubs. There's no, proof of residency, anything like that. We don't want to, people who are struggling and asking for help don't need to feel any more demeaned than they already are struggling. Um, and there's no time limit.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and kind of what brought you to what you're doing?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. So I am a licensed mental health counselor. I've been licensed since 2005, 20 years. But I've been in the field, before that. Um, I've run the gamut of locations, residential programs, outpatient practices, mental health, substance use, DYS. Um, and I've had my own private practice for 8 years. And about 3 years ago, I had noticed that the number of people coming in requesting to see us who don't have insurance or the right insurance, in my air quotes, was so high. That insurance was dictating the treatment people could get and the quality treatment care, and people with the lower insurances or no financial means were in agencies who had a high turnover rate, poorly trained, just not good fits. And, the model that was existing, and that oftentimes does exist, is that, treatment is treatment. Whereas I look at it as you want the right treatment. You don't want, the brand new intern necessarily fixing your heart condition when they've never had any experience or exposure, and that mental health shouldn't be treated differently. And so my bleeding heart did a lot with pro bono work and decided there had to be a way to have people kind of help out with this. So Be Inspired Together was born in 2022 with the mission that everyone should have equal access to quality mental health care without having to worry about the finances that exist. So we started our scholarship program in 2023, and since then we've done over $100,000 worth of scholarships in support of mental health. And we have such, there's so many people who are waiting that we haven't even been able to touch yet. So
It's just truly amazing, and I'm not saying this to patronize you because we're on the podcast, but it's such a beautiful thing that you do. Physical health, when somebody has a heart attack or cancers or things like that, in this country, we wouldn't dream of not giving them the care that they need. But when it comes to mental health, and again, I'd value your opinion on it. I have a particular bias. I think we've come a long way, but I still think we're kind of cavalier about the way that we look at mental health. Um, perhaps the pandemic has heightened that a little bit. Kind of what's your thought on it, and where do you see mental health in kind of in society? You must have seen changes since 2005 for sure.
for sure, I think it's become a lot more discussed. The taboo and the stigma has decreased, but we still have a long way to go. I think people being, home together and not having their other resources really heightened the need for care. Um, but yet, it's still always a battle with insurance companies to get people to pay for services. And is it really needed? And, is loved ones saying, "Oh, well, you sure you need to go talk to someone?" Or I don't believe in mental health. And you're right. It's exactly not given the same weight
Yeah.
as physical
And
health.
may I ask, Marci, is it your interest in mental health? Was it always there, even as a child? Is that something that you always knew, or did you kind of come at it from later on?
I always knew I wanted to help people. After college, I kind of fell into a grad school program for dance therapy. I thought I was going to combine my love for helping people with
Yeah.
my dance background, and that program wasn't for me. But I did and switch into a counseling program, which I loved. Um, I thought the populations I've worked with over the years have changed, all very needed and all very worthy. It's just different situations have placed me in different populations to be able to work with, but I've always wanted to help people. My friends joke, my family jokes, like the bleeding heart that exists. I would, put everyone before, my own needs and just which is what we do as clinicians a lot of times is we put ourselves out there. We hold all of the weight for people. We, take on everything that they have to give. And then we need to kind of go out and function for our own families. And I think the pandemic really heightened that because, for those of us who are trauma trained, we're trying to help our clients with trauma, but we were living in the same trauma and no one had experienced that. So we're doing the work while treating people at the same time. And it really was a lot for clinicians. The numbers are through the roof and everybody wants to be seen and nobody wanted to be seen online. And for safety reasons, we had to switch to telehealth models for people and being creative with people's needs. And, thankfully, I think the aftermath
Oh yeah, for
continues.
sure. It's interesting that you say that you're going through these things at the same time that you're helping your clients. That's I think sometimes managers, they take on the anxiety of the department that they're working on. I think parents, to a large degree, will prioritize themselves uh, under their families and their children's needs, etc. So I've never really thought of it in terms of the therapist having to juggle that as well. And if you're a therapist and you're a parent, you got a lot of things going on there. So again, I echo and I say it definitely takes a special person. There's something that I in reading a little bit about being inspired together that I thought was very unique, that I've not heard of it before, is the fact that you actually onboard the patients that are coming to you and you align them with a particular practice and therapist. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yep. So being that we're still new, we are using one practice to field everybody through just to make sure financially we're in a good place and that we don't want someone to have a lapse in treatment. The hope is to be able to branch out to lots of different practices and also things like psychiatry and other mental health modalities
Sure.
that are needed. Um, but it's very much the right match. So if someone comes in with trauma needs, we're making sure that they're matched with a clinician who's got appropriate trauma training. If it's a 5-year-old coming in, they're matched with a clinician who has the training to work with a 5-year-old. It's not just you're next in line and you're next in line. There's a lot of thought put behind to the matches. I often talk about it like a pair of shoes, right? It has to be the right fit for everybody involved, or it's not going to be comfortable and it's not going to work.
Yeah, that's interesting. Of course, I teach martial arts, and I've used that analogy like people will come to me and say, "What's the best style of martial arts?" Or they'll try to make a decision over the telephone, and I say, martial arts is much like a mattress. I know 1-800 mattress is out there, but to me, it's kind of hard to buy a mattress, or the thought of it buying a mattress over the telephone. You kind of want to lie in it and see how it supports you, and I can imagine in what you do, it's very much the same. May I ask, is that typical, your approach? Or because when I was reading it really struck me as well. That's a very novel idea. Is that industry standard and I was just not aware of that, or is that something unique to Be Inspired Together?
I'd like to think I think it's unique to us. I think there are other practices and groups that are doing the same, but unfortunately it's not. There's a lot of larger counseling practices that are bigger business
Uh-huh.
corporations and their primary goal is to make money. We look at it as we want to support the people and we want it to be the right fit. So I think it depends on what angle you're coming at. But I've worked in agencies where it's been up, you have an opening, you get this person, no thought about, is this a good fit for the client? Is it a good fit for the clinician? Right. Because it has to also match what the clinician's skill set is or the clinician's own, personal needs as far as who they're willing to treat and can treat. And um, so we definitely put a lot of thought into the matches. I think it's like, industry is like when you call the doctor, you get the next person in line. And mental health is unfortunately the same way. And the skill sets are a little
Yeah, for
different.
sure. That I can absolutely imagine. Something else that's I think very unique to you is the scholarship program that you have. And of course, and I'd love to talk about how people that are listening to this can help and support. If this is something that speaks, to their heart, I think you're an organization that would certainly be worthy of consideration for financial support. Can you talk about the kind of the scholarship arm of what it is that you're doing would be Inspired Together?
Yeah. So the scholarship arm is probably the most major part we have. We do offer, lots of free workshops to the community and go out and do crisis interventions when people need. But the individual scholarship program is the bulk of what we do. And it's, the client's matched with the right clinician. And then I solely have the conversation with the client about what can they afford to pay. There's no showing of pay stubs. There's no, proof of residency, anything like that. We don't want to, people who are struggling and asking for help don't need to feel any more demeaned than they already are struggling. Um, and there's no time limit. As long as they continue to participate in therapy and show up for therapy, and, meet their part of the agreements, then they can stay as long as they need the treatment that's clinically warranted. And we have some clients who literally are in homeless shelters who pay absolutely nothing. And we have other families where, maybe the health insurance changed and they had been with their clinician for a long time and it was just not a good fit to move the client to someone else. So maybe we're just covering a copay. We have clients anywhere from 5 to 75 on the scholarship program. We have a newer kiddo who's 5, who just started seeing his therapist, and his dad, who held the health insurance, passed away. And so he already had one major loss. We were going to ask him to lose his therapist as well. So we're fully covering him, as his mom tries to kind of navigate a new life for them. We have lots of teenagers whose parents have cut them off when they've hit college age and they just don't know where to go and they have a good relationship with their therapist. So we wanted to be able to continue that. We have lots of women who we see who are victims of domestic violence. We have lots of men who we see who are victims of domestic violence. Our numbers are huge. It's just the number of people who need the service and, call in. We don't have enough funds right now to take them all. If we did, we 100% would, because some are seen weekly, some every other week.
Yeah. It's everybody, within the community doing what they can, to support. And, again, having a beautiful heart and wanting to give the shirt off your back. I'm sure you want to help everybody, but, you have a finite amount of time and resources to be able to do that. So all of the more reason, you're really, I think you're touching upon a part of our community that is in some ways the most vulnerable. I see some of these things that make headlines about these atrocities that happen, in our community and in our country. And in my mind, it's very easy, Marci, I find, to demonize the people for what they do, and and I can understand that reaction because I have that same reaction, but I can't help but think, geez, if that person had the intervention earlier, if that person had professional redirection, maybe it wouldn't have spiraled so far out of control. Do you agree with that, or do you think some of these things are something different? I just wonder, the when I see the things that make headlines, in my mind, I'm thinking, geez, the root cause is mental health. It's, they're not animals, they're not aliens. These are just people like you and I that just got derailed and didn't have the support that they needed. What's your thoughts?
I definitely think there are a lot of people who are in that boat. It's, life happens and they don't have the supports they need. Um, and for other people, I think it's the environment where they were brought up in, especially our kids who are struggling. Sometimes it's what they've grown up seeing. There are also people who, they are genetically predisposed to mental health issues. But I 100% agree that, with intervention and support, people can move forward and live a fulfilling life. Just, finding the right person who's willing to sit and listen to them and work, support them through it. Then sometimes we have clients who come in, everyone does, I think, and who say like, when am I going to be fixed? And having to explain it's a process. You're not going to, and also we're not going to fix you. We're going to give you tools but you're going to fix you, and we're going to be there to support you no matter what happens. But this is the work that you have to do. And therapy isn't just the 45 minutes you've got booked in my schedule. Therapy is what you're doing outside of the office. Where are you continuing to use the skills and practice the skills and grow? Because if you don't, it's like math homework. If you don't practice your addition, you're not going to be able to be successful. So same thing, you have to practice what you're working towards
Right,
in therapy.
absolutely. I think about those things that are most important in life. Your spiritual health that requires constant evaluation, whether it's religious based or it's a meditation. When I think about physical health, you have the component of exercise, and you never really arrive. It's a daily practice. When I think about nutrition, and then of course, as you've you know done a very good job pointing out, it's not when am I going to get fixed. It's can we help you install the systems in place so that you can, continue to facilitate, mental health in your life. So I think that's a really important distinction. I'm sure with the people that you've helped, there are some stories that probably stick out in your mind, some of the victories that you've had. I don't know if there's one or two that you wouldn't mind sharing about, the impact your work has made.
Yeah, I mean, we have so many success stories, and it's the little wins for us too. It's when you have a kiddo who you've been working with who texts you his prom picture, or lets you know that they got their driver's license before they'd even called their parents to tell them, because you've been working on how to get over the anxiety for it. Um, I have a woman who I've been seeing for quite some time now who drank daily up until the day I started working with her, and now she's been able to do the work. She's been sober for 8 years. She comes in monthly, as she calls it, her like tune up, just because she wants to continue to have that connection and have that space. But she has done all the work outside of it to get past all of the things that were blocking her and leading to her substance use and her trauma background. Um, we when clients are able to advocate for themselves, and our teens are able to share with their parents a difficult conversation that they have been practicing having, and talking about, you can control what you say, but you can't control how they're going to receive it or how they're going to react to it, and being able to just shift the narrative and change the story and not repeat the cycle of what you keep seeing, and being able to shift that and be proud of that. It's just it's so amazing to be able to have people let you into their lives and watch them transform. And lots of time, all the time, we point out to our clients, look at how far you've come, when they're like, oh, this isn't working. And I'm like, but look at the difference, even from week to week. Change can be small. It doesn't have to be huge. You've sat in school every day this week. You didn't get sent to the principal's office like you did 10 times last week. Like, that's a big deal. You're able to have a difficult conversation with your parents without flipping out. You're able to support your kid who's struggling, in a more positive manner than yelling and sending them to a timeout. So, it's really the fact that people are allowing a stranger to bear witness to all of this is really amazing. I was saying to one of my younger kiddos the other day, who I work with, that, your whole life, your parents are telling you stranger danger, don't talk to strangers, don't talk to strangers. And here they are bringing you to see a stranger and saying, go tell your whole life story. And so talking about what that's like to tell a stranger, and how does that feel, but also how this relationship, the therapeutic relationship, is different than any other relationship you'll have in your life. Because there's no one, the therapist isn't asking you to give them anything. It's not any, I don't need you to do something for me. It's how can I support you? And it's really just beautiful to see what happens with a client who really is just putting forth the effort.
Well, it requires a great level of skill on your part, and I'm sure on the part of your clinicians, because in the other podcast I do called the Growth Blueprint, we talk about how we create these containers, or we call them containers or call them environments, where it's a safe space where you can be vulnerable, where you can share honestly and openly, and it's not enough just to set up the practice and say, hey, tell me your deepest darkest secrets. There's a level, and sometimes I don't think people quite appreciate it. There's a level of skill that it takes on the part of the clinician to very carefully, thoughtfully, respectfully gain that level, earn that level of trust to be able to unlock, untangle what's going on within somebody, something that's got them a little bit bound up. And so I think it's just wonderful, the work that you're doing for the community. Can you speak about I guess the communities that you serve? I want all of our listeners to understand the reach that you have, and I'm quite sure you're working. We're talking about providing support in socioeconomic hardship, but is there tell me about your typical client. You said, from 5 to 75. That's quite a range. So is it as broad based as that? And where is most of your work being done?
So it's broad based because we have a number of clinicians that we're utilizing. Everybody has a different skill set. As far as treatment, we can treat anyone anywhere located within Massachusetts because of the licensure laws that exist. We are primarily based in the Stoughton, Mansfield, Easton catchment area, because physically right now we're seeing clients in Mansfield and in Stoughton. Again, we hope to expand that. But we have clients coming from Norwood, from Boston. We have clients from Attleboro, Brockton, JP, Hyde Park, so we've got Randolph, we've got a wide, diverse group of people who are coming. But we do also do a lot of telehealth. So that way we can serve a larger area, which is nice. And also that kind of eliminates the transportation. I say that, telehealth also can eliminate the transportation problem for people who might not be able to drive to an appointment.
And you spoke about events that you do or classes that you teach. Can you give an example of some of those and how somebody would find out about them?
Yep. So as far as groups that we do, we have drop-in domestic violence prevention groups for survivors. We have those. Summer's a little different. It's once a month, but usually we have those every week. We have drop-in groups or sign-up groups. We have LGBTQIA support groups. We also do a lot like individual groups. So for instance, there was a tragedy a few years ago in the Norton area, and a local organization who was directly affected by it reached out to us. We went into that group. We did open support groups for anybody who wanted to show up from that organization. And then we also offered individual sessions for the family that was affected. And we do that a lot. We respond to communities a lot as to what's needed. We have a direct line right now with the Mansfield Police Department. They call us with some of their more difficult cases who might need a more substantially trained clinician. So they'll work with us on that. And we have stuff posted on our website, on our social media pages. Kind of just pay attention to the pulse on the community. And, if we see that a community is struggling, we reach out to say, how can we support?
Wonderful. And can you tell everybody your website or how they can just stay in touch and in tune with you to be able to follow the wonderful things that you are doing?
So our website is www.beinspiredtogether.org. And we're also pretty active on Facebook. We've got some LinkedIn and Instagram as well. We tend to, on those pages, post our more social fundraising events. So we do have three major fundraisers, our gala, our golf tournament, and our Falmouth Road Race. But we also do, and those are our big moneymakers for the scholarship program, but we also have smaller community-based events so that everybody can feel that they're contributing. So right now, we are, at the end of the month, we have a kids mini golf event at Monster Mini Golf in Norwood. We're doing like a glass blowing event at Hammer and Stain in Easton. So we do also have the smaller events where we can talk to the groups in a smaller format about what we're doing and have a more individualized approach. But also we have so many community members who want to be a part, who want to participate with what we're doing. And financially, the smaller events are a better fit for them. So we do like to have a range so we can be there. And then we show up at community events. We're going to be at Mansfield Night in a few weeks. We have a road race in Stoughton in the fall. So we certainly try to keep things going and active, and even just sharing tips about mental health. And people can always reach us. The email is info@beinspiredtogether.org. It actually comes right to me. So people can always ask questions or reach out if they have concerns for themselves or a loved one, or if they, are looking to be a recipient of the scholarship program, or if they're looking to take a chance on a smaller nonprofit that could use some support and be a donor and help us out. And also just sharing our stuff is just as important. If people can't financially support, which we completely understand, everyone's got their things that they support in their own lives, just sharing what we do. If you see something, share it with someone else.
Absolutely. Well, we have your business cards at our karate school, and again, we want to make sure that we're doing our.
Yes, we live at one of the karate schools.
Yeah, it's so important, the work that you do. I just can't stress it enough, and it's such a beautiful resource for the community. I knew when I started this, you were definitely one of the people that I wanted to highlight. So, certainly on behalf of myself and our team, I want to thank you for everything that you're doing. I really, you and your team, and I'm sure I'll meet them at upcoming events, but we're just very, very grateful. Is there anything, Marci, that I perhaps should have asked and didn't? I know you have the golf tournament coming up. Uh, anything else?
The major golf tournament just passed. The kids golf event is coming up. That's July 31st.
And you said it's at Monster Golf in Norwood.
Yep, people can register right online. It comes with 18 holes of golf. It comes with an arcade card for the kids, and it comes with dinner. So it's a great evening event. Parents win; they don't have to cook. Kids win; they get to go hang out and glow in the dark for a while. Everybody wins. We don't have to worry about the weather. So everybody wins on that.
It is a fun place to go for sure. So that's just a wonderful thing. And I know I'll see you at Mansfield Family Night in just next week, I think, or maybe just the week after, about 10 days or so. So that'll be wonderful. Well, again, Marci, I want to thank you for taking the time. I'm very grateful again for the work that you do, and I'm excited. If you had your way, where are we going to be inspired together in 3 to 5 years? Do you have a vision for where you're taking the company?
In 3 to 5 years, we are going to have a larger staff who can help with our fundraising full time, and also more just direct service. We're going to be involved with more local agencies who provide the services. And we're going to have lots of new donors who just love the idea of supporting mental health and supporting a great cause and just want to be involved in their community. So we have lots of big goals. We've done so much in the 3 years that we've been here. So I have every hope and that 5 years we're going to be in an amazing place.
Well, I look forward to being a part of it, and I look forward to watching the growth and development in the mission. So again, thank you so much, Marci, and we will talk soon. And again, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you for having us.